And the biggest thing is finding places for the livestock to go.
Yeah, especially if somebody's got completely burnt out, they don't have any grass. They might have pasture, but there's nothing there to eat.
We actually had Carroll College one time. They had for their agricultural program, they had some fields and stuff like that, and they opened it up for livestock from evacuees that people could take their livestock to, you know. But the fairgrounds, we're always putting horses and cows at the fairgrounds if we have to and stuff. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, I think it's something to keep in mind at least.
Yeah, it's peace of mind for the homeowner, but like here in Lewis and Clark, nobody ever goes to the shelters. They'll put they'll open the shelter for a couple hours, put it on standby, and then close it the next day because nobody goes. Okay, do we want to give Debbie a couple more minutes?
Yeah, and I'll text her, see if she's available.
Okay.
I'm not getting anything back from her, Joe. So, let's go get started. She can jump on if she is available.
Okay, sounds good. Steve, are you there? I see his little earth, but I don't see Steve. Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm here, just the background.
All right, Steve. So I'm going to kind of fill you in and let you know how this meeting came about. And then we'll go from there. And then I'll kind of go into things in detail. So if people could just give me the courtesy of going through the explanations of what's going on, then we can have some discussion afterward. So regarding Lavina and Hardin, over the last few weeks, I've received numerous phone calls from VOAD agencies with some pretty significant complaints about how things were going and how some people felt agencies were treated and things like that.
Have you got a record of those, Joe? That you could share?
They were phone calls. They were phone calls, Dallas.
Yeah, I'd like to know who it was and the date and everything, if I could.
Dallas, please let me go through everything first. So, what has happened is John and I talked about the complaints, and we said, well, let's just do an informal AAR with Dallas, make it non-confrontational. Let's bring some positives to light. Let's bring the complaints to light, and see if we can resolve this without bringing it up to board level. Okay. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen that way. And now National is involved, and National is looking at all of this. I spent 3 hours on the phone with National VOAD yesterday, with different representatives from National VOAD yesterday, on and off. And the bottom line is there are some serious complaints out there that we're going to need to address, and also some bylaw violations that we need to take a look at. And we need to look at if we're going to stop all operations in Hardin, because we have the potential for some massive backlash over this. First of all, I can tell you this, and I want to lead with some positives. The folks I talked to at National yesterday were very complimentary of our handling of Yellowstone. We know we made some mistakes. We identified some gaps. They were very encouraged with how we combined all the meetings and brought in our non-government partners, our VOAD partners, and our federal, state, and local partners to work together, sharing of information, open communications, and so forth. They were very encouraged by that. They were also very complimentary of our response to Hysham. Their exact words to me were, it doesn't matter if it's government caused, if it's a hurricane or a flood, you had 200 people without drinking water and you did what you needed to do. All that other stuff can be sorted out on the back end. They were very happy with our response with Hysham. And it had the best possible outcome with the county taking the lead on that and recognizing that they needed to come up with a more permanent solution, and we provided that stopgap. So they're very complimentary of that. With the complaints, they started with Lavina, and let me explain what happened with Lavina. As the president of Montana VOAD, I am the primary point of contact for disasters. John is the secondary. I had contact with both the mayor's office and the county DES, and we were working together to identify places and stuff like that. I started sending out information that was given to me by the mayor's office and the county, and we should have just passed that information along to our agencies and let our agencies make the determination if they were able to assist or not. What happened was addresses started getting Google mapped, looked up, researched. Homeowners were getting phone calls, and the next thing you know, I'm getting calls from the mayor's office in the county saying, we thought you were the point of contact. Who is this guy who's coming in, calling homeowners, setting stuff up? Who are people supposed to contact? And it created a lot of confusion to where the mayor's office and the county finally backed out of it. They were really confused about who to contact and everything else. I let them know I am the primary point of contact. John is our vice president. He is the secondary. And that, I mean, we did get people helped, and that's a positive. But at the same time, we really kind of got out of sorts. We should not be Google mapping addresses. We should not be vetting jobs before we give them to agencies. That's not our position as a board. Our position is saying there's an unmet need out there. If an agency chooses to respond, then they can look at it from there.
Who Google maps addresses?
Dallas, when you came back about, well, this looks like a business, that's not our place to say. You know, we give it to our agency and they run with it. So,
well, I disagree. I think it's our responsibility to determine that too and get it to the agencies.
Okay.
I don't see anything in the writing, and I need to know who made those.
Dallas, please let me finish. So then we get to Hardin, and my sole intention when I got a call from the Red Cross was when I sent the email out about Hardin was just to put it on our radar. I knew we wouldn't be able to respond as a VOAD because we don't have coverage in that area. At no time did we authorize anyone to start calling homeowners or anything else. The problem that we have with Hardin right now is the fact, this is what I've heard from a few of our agencies. They felt like they were browbeat into responding. The Salvation Army, going down the chain and emailing everyone in the Army was uncalled for. Just because we have our auto replies on doesn't mean we're not looking at the emails and discussing it internally. Normally what happens is if agencies stand silent, they're not going to respond. We don't need to browbeat them. We put an ask out once, nobody responds. We put an ask out another time. That's it. You know, I'm sorry, if we don't have agencies that can respond, then we cannot respond. At no time do I know of that we have had communication with county officials or local government officials to help coordinate the fact that we are in their county. While we do not have to wait on the government, we are not a government agency and we do not answer to the government. They are our partners. And we don't know what they're working. We don't know what they're working on. And we could accidentally go in there and start stepping on toes.
Did you get a hold of the county, Joe?
No, I never did.
Or the tribe? How come?
Okay, because they did not respond. And typically, if they do not respond,
you tried to get a hold of them?
Yes, Dallas. Now let me finish, please. Okay, I had one person who called me and told me that Dallas, you mentioned to them that you were making it your personal quest to get every person on that list, and Hardin helped. Now, I did make a mistake when the database was shared with the entire VOAD. That information should never have gone out through the entire VOAD.
Well,
Never.
If crisis cleanup was with us, entire VOAD could have had access to all of that information on crisis cleanup, all of it.
Okay, Dallas, you're missing the point. The point is, even National told me we should never have shared that.
I'd like
National,
to know. I'd like to know.
National has looked, Dallas. Dallas, please stop. Dallas, please stop.
Let me
National,
know who. Just let me
National looked at it, Dallas.
I'd like to know who National is.
The National Board of VOAD, Dallas.
I'd like to know who contacted you personally, because I want to contact them.
Okay, now let me finish. We had agencies say that you were emailing them, asking them why they were not responding.
Well, that's a lie.
And it wasn't even their service area.
That's a lie. I didn't ask anybody why they weren't responding. Nobody.
Okay.
I'd have to see the proof of that. We got a whole bunch of accusations flying around here and no proof at the kangaroo court.
Dallas, we're not trying to do this. We're not trying to blame you for anything. I'm putting forward concerns.
Well, you look at this whole thing. It was first couched as an AAAR. Why didn't you just call me and say, I've got a complaint. This person called me and complained. I don't like the way you're doing this. I'm out of, I can't do it because I'm traveling or I'm on vacation. So I don't want you doing anything or whatever. And instead of doing it this way, talking behind my back, coming in with this kind of a so-called AAR is ugly. And it's
Dallas, we're trying
again. We are grown men. We are grown men, and we shouldn't be talking behind each other's backs. If I have a concern about another board member, I should share it with a board member. That would be the best way to do it.
Dallas, please let me finish. I'm not trying to browbeat. I am addressing the concerns and bringing them before everybody. I'm not trying to throw
the concerns if you'll share me the information of who said this to you.
So Dallas, as an example, when I said TR couldn't respond to Lavina, you asked me those exact same questions about why we couldn't. And so you do it. You may not realize you're doing it in that
I didn't ask you why, John.
Dallas, you did. It was very specific why. Well, I can share the email with you.
I might have asked you what's the situation, what's your parameters, but I didn't ask you why you're not responding.
Dallas, you specifically asked me why we're not responding. And my concern is that for me, it's all right. It's one thing I don't really care, but if you start alienating our members in the VOAD with those questions like that,
I've got dozens of emails from people saying, thank you for the work you're doing. I don't understand this. We got a bunch of dishonest people that don't want to talk to me about their concern. Or
Dallas, Dallas, please listen. Dallas, I have had agencies tell me they're thinking about pulling out of VOAD because of the way Hardin was handled.
Yeah, I want to know who that is. I'd like to know who that is.
Please, right now, just let me finish and go through this because there's a lot more that we need to cover quickly. So please listen. Things like you did a TV interview. Okay. Not saying TV interviews are wrong. Okay. But here's the problem. John and I did not know this was coming. John and I did not know this was happening. Okay. Once things get out in the media, especially when we are not communicating with our local county and state partners and keeping them in the loop on what is going on, there is a potential for a phone call from the state DES office, from the governor's office. I'm in Helena. Believe me when I tell you, the governor's office likes to pick up the phone. And I am their first point of contact. And if I'm not around, they're going to call John as the vice president. And they're going to say, what's up with this interview? What are you guys doing? And we know nothing.
Did they call?
No, but the potential is there.
Well, that's all right. Let them call.
Okay, but it looks, Dallas, it gives us a black eye if I don't know anything about it.
I sent out the information.
Okay, no, you sent out information, but we didn't know about it in advance. We did not know it was coming. Okay, these things need to, things like interviews, media, all that stuff during a disaster needs to be coordinated beforehand. So when I'm talking to someone, because they're calling me or they're calling John, if we don't know what we're talking about, it gives us a black eye. Then the next thing you know, the state doesn't even think we know what we're talking about because the president and vice president don't know what's going on. And then they're at a regional meeting talking to other states about how their VOAD doesn't know what the right hand and the left hand is doing. And now other states are talking to their VOADs, and now it becomes a national VOAD problem. Okay. The next thing is going in and pulling
Let's just make a point here that if that's the case, then that should be written down somewhere. Okay.
Okay, Dallas, please let me finish. Okay. The other issue that we have is pulling in of agencies that are not VOAD partners to get them to come in and do work under the VOAD umbrella. If none of our partner agencies can respond, then unfortunately, we can't respond to that disaster. We do an AAR. But Dallas, please.
Why would
Dallas,
we throw our hands up and not reach out to national VOAD partners? Why is that?
Dallas, please let me finish. Okay, here's the problem. You're reaching out to partners and none of us knew about it. You're reaching out to people that none of us knew about it. If someone is reaching out to a national partner, Dallas, please.
I'm going to be reaching out to all the people that are national VOAD members because they have to belong to so many state VOADs before they can belong to the national VOAD, and a lot of them want to join with us. So I'll be doing that as part of my work.
Okay, Dallas, I'm going to be blunt here because you're not hearing us.
I'm hearing you.
In my conversation with National, they pulled up our bylaws and they told me your secretary has no authority to be contacting homeowners, to be contacting other agencies, to be doing anything based on your own bylaws unless that authority is granted by the president or the vice president. Neither John nor I gave you the authority to contact homeowners. Neither John or I gave you the authority to contact Catholic Social Services and try to arrange grant monies coming in. That is a major can of worms. Okay, I was on the phone with National when you sent that email out there, and they asked me, what is he doing? They said, why? Let me finish, please, Dallas.
I can come up with these. I was on the phone with such and such, and they
Dallas, please let me finish. Dallas, please let me finish. And I was asked, what is he doing? Why is he they asked me, is Catholic Charities a part of your VOAD? I said, no. They said, well, yes, they are a national partner. Yes, it would be a great idea to have them on your VOAD. But why would they be setting up long-term recovery and putting grant money in for a 16-home event that's not large enough to set up recovery? You have a lot of problems when you bring in this money down.
Why is that a problem, though? Why is that?
It's a major problem, and I'll tell you why. Because grant monies, first of all, you cannot restrict it to the 16 people on that list. Okay, I'm
not doing it, though. It's Catholic Charities that are doing it.
Okay, but here's the thing. The board did not know about this. No one knew about this.
You knew I was
You acted on your own on this.
Well,
okay. Here's the problem.
You were out of town. You were traveling.
It doesn't matter if I'm out of town. I was out of town last year during Yellowstone, and I was still holding Zoom meetings from summer camp. It doesn't matter if I'm out of town.
So let me get this straight. So you wanted us to just do nothing, right?
Dallas, we didn't respond to Denton.
We what?
Because we didn't respond to Denton when half the town burned. Because nobody could respond. Okay. When Flathead flooded last year, Flathead County specifically told us they didn't want outside agencies. There are times where we have to take the emotion out of it and say, each agency in our VOAD has a limited service area, Dallas. And to go outside their areas sometimes is not cost effective, or they can't do it. It's a cold, hard fact about disaster. We all want to help people. We all want to do good. We all want to provide the best possible service, but there are sometimes that we don't have the reach. And in the case of Hardin, we didn't have the reach. That's why local is important. And one of the things National stressed with me yesterday is their huge push is the creation of local and regional VOADs to assist the state VOAD. And because, as I have said many times, disasters start and end locally. The problem with bringing in grant money, while there is good side to it, and it's wonderful that somebody wants to help, but here's the problem. Grant money comes with restrictions. Okay, and based on the fact, I don't know if Catholic Social Services grant money is federally.
This has no restrictions. Okay, maybe it's not grant money. It just has
okay, but we need. But now, as a VOAD, we need to put restrictions on. How much of a piece of the pie does each person get?
No, that's not our job.
Okay, you're saying it's not your job, but you're pulling them in.
Well,
okay.
So I found a voluntary organization willing to help. That fits in with everything we're supposed to be doing.
But Dallas, you're not hearing the bottom line. Here's the problem. Once one person gets money, everybody and their brother is going to come and want money, even if they're not on that original list.
That's true with anything we do, but that has nothing to do with me. They said they wanted to do it and they wanted help doing it. I put out the email.
Dallas, but you were not authorized to make that contact. You were not authorized to do that.
If I wasn't authorized to make the contacts, I mean, a month ago I was making contacts. Okay, why didn't you say no? You're not authorized. You were not available. You weren't doing it.
Dallas,
we don't do it.
I was making contact, and that was the problem. I was in contact with the county and mayor's office in Lavina.
My point is, if you didn't want me to make contacts, you should have told me so.
Dallas, that's not the job of the secretary. Your job is, Dallas, please send this out to the VOAD. That's it.
I'm on the board. That's the job of the board, actually.
National disagrees.
Well, I'd like to talk to National, whoever you talk to.
Okay, now National is meeting on that.
National is not our boss. I guess you know that.
Okay, Dallas, I'm sorry to say this, but they are looking at this right now like we have a rogue board member. And instead of taking the criticism, no, this causes a problem for National.
I want to know who said that. I want to talk to him.
Dallas, this causes a problem. This causes a problem when we have, look, during Yellowstone, we made a point not to contact homeowners.
Because of crisis cleanup.
It wasn't because of, crisis cleanup was the database, but the whole reason we said we were not going to contact homeowners to clean up the database is because once you contact a homeowner, they hear what they want to hear, not what you're saying. And you can create the false expectation that they are going to receive service.
Yeah, I said that many times, but we had crisis cleanup. They did that work.
And
it doesn't. We talked to crisis cleanup. They said, no, don't call them back to see if it's done.
Okay.
Because we got to work through them on it.
Okay, Dallas, we should not be contacting homeowners directly. Our agency should be. We should not be setting, because once we contact them, we can set up a false expectation. And there is an opinion out there that you contacted these folks. None of our agencies responded. You contacted agencies multiple times. The Salvation Army was kind of upset, and I will use them because I work for them, because they did not they did not feel like you took no for an answer. No means no, and we're not responding, and that's it.
Well,
but you started going through everybody down the list. And one of those happens to be a national board member.
They're on our database, aren't they?
Okay, it doesn't matter if they're on our database. What you're doing is saying the agency doesn't know what it's doing. let me explain to you how the Salvation Army works. If as soon as we get a notification, whether it's on the east side or the west side of the state, I am either notifying Sean or Ian. And then depending on what side of the state is, we discuss, well, do we have the resources to respond? Yes or no. If the answer is no, that's it. You can't. If contacting Felicia does no good, she can only respond in the Billings area. She can't go all the way to Hardin unless she gets authority to go to Hardin.
Felicia contacted me, sent me an email, said they could help in Hardin.
And I know because she talked to Ian. Okay, she talked to Ian after all this litany of stuff went through.
Ian,
And once again, they felt like they were browbeat into responding. They are one. I will tell you, they are one of the agencies that contacted Dallas. I am not trying to make this confrontational.
who is Ian? Well, it is confrontational.
No, Ian. Let me explain to you who Ian is. Ian is the Emergency Disaster Services Director out of Denver, Colorado, who is responsible for the eastern half of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado. He is a 4-year president of Colorado VOAD. He is currently the vice president of Colorado VOAD. He has received national awards from VOAD for his disaster response, and he is a national VOAD board member. That's who Ian is. Steve, I'm sorry if this sounds confrontational. I'm not trying to make it that way. Okay.
Well, it is confrontational by the very nature of it. But it should have been brought up months ago when you were out of town and I was making calls and you didn't agree with it.
Dallas,
ambush me here is not.
This is not intended to be an ambush. That's why John and I wanted to meet with you.
Let's look at that. I was notified that we're going to have an AAR meeting under the guise of this, that, and that means you and Steve, or you and John were talking, maybe Steve, about what you're going to do here. Why not call me and say, I've got concerns about what you're doing. Let's do that instead of backbiting and back talking. And then
we're not back. Dallas,
let's clean that up a little bit, and let's treat each other like equals.
Dallas, we are getting a black eye out of this, and I don't think you realize it.
Agree. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's saying, "Wow, good job! Look at the help we got in there." I got a whole bunch
okay, Dallas, but what are the ramifications? Going forward, we have had no contact with our government partners. We don't work for them, but we owe them the courtesy of working with them.
If they want to work with us, but if they don't, we don't have to sit around and wait for them.
No, we don't. But here's the other problem about pulling in grant money, Dallas.
But did you contact the government partners?
Okay, here is the problem with pulling in grant money. Okay, there are also
it's Catholic charities money that they're giving for this. That might not be grant money. That might be just a donation. Okay. So I don't know about grant.
Okay. Here's the thing. If it doesn't matter if it's grant money or not, and we heard this time and time again in Yellowstone, if we move too fast and we give handouts to people right now before all the other processes could go through their hoops, we cut them out from future assistance that could possibly and potentially be coming down the pike. Sometimes
what process do you refer to?
Okay, if you look at, let's use Yellowstone for example. John Mayer did those huge contacts.
Yellowstone is a different animal.
Okay, no, but this is how it works in disaster. If at some point in the time, the state frees up some money or somebody else frees up some money or somebody gets a grant to hand out money and we've already given money out to a homeowner, they are now frozen out from any future assistance.
From the government.
Okay.
From government.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a big deal.
No, it isn't.
That is a big deal.
It's not in there.
Okay.
They're not in on the disaster there.
Okay, but here's the problem, Dallas. All of this that's going on, especially with the state and our partners, we have upset agencies.
I'd like to talk to them. I don't believe it. Okay, I don't believe that. So I'd like to see the proof.
So Dallas, why don't you believe that? Why do you think Joe would be making
I
that
just
up.
don't believe it. I mean, you guys ambushed me making these claims with all these people that are upset, and I'm getting all these letters saying, thank you, good work, good job. I'm glad we got the help in there. And you guys are saying that all hell's breaking loose on the other side. I want to know, these are accusations that need to be proven, not just stated. Okay.
So Dallas, what possible motive would Joe have from saying that? I think you might be
because of this meeting. He's got to prove a point because of this meeting. He couldn't come in and say all the agencies have been
Dallas,
really
maybe
happy with the work.
to set the expectations a little differently. I really have better things to do on 11 o'clock on a Thursday than discuss this type of stuff. I think it's important to discuss it, and I sure as shit wouldn't be making things up.
I do too, but why do it this way? Why ambush? Why not call and say, I'm getting concerns that you're doing this and you're doing that? I've been doing this for a month and a half. And
so Dallas, the reason I didn't,
and I appreciated his thought was sending out that information out to the Montana VOAD. And I had concerns about that too, but every one of those agencies in Montana VOAD can join Crisis Cleanup and see the same information through Crisis Cleanup. So this
Dallas,
way after the
even according to national, we are setting up ourselves for a lawsuit.
Well,
I even saw Steve send you an email saying, I don't think this is a good idea. Ian Thigpen from the Department of Health and Human Services sent you an email saying we shouldn't be sharing this data. And you pushed back against everyone. Multiple people told you we should not be sharing this data.
Well,
now, I did make the mistake.
They didn't say that, but they said that they wonder if we should be. And I brought up what's the difference between this and Crisis Cleanup.
There's a big difference. There is huge difference.
What is it?
You know, okay, first of all, we're sharing personal data, and in Crisis Cleanup is kept between our agencies. Only agencies that have a login can get in there and see it. Number one. Number two, until you accept a job, you cannot see the contact information. And then only the responding agency sees contact information. Not everyone. Okay. Our federal and state partners have extremely limited access.
The agencies that go into Crisis Cleanup that have a sign-in can see the contact information, and most, except in some that have protected it and don't want it.
Okay. But there is an option to have that protected.
Well,
our federal and state partners have access to Crisis Cleanup, but they have very limited access. They cannot see everything the nonprofits can see. Right. When that gets blasted out to the entire VOAD, that goes to our state partners, it goes to our federal partners, it goes to every agency. And there are some people on there, it goes to our volunteers who are thinking about joining VOAD. It goes to a lot of people who shouldn't see that information. Okay.
Who volunteers that are thinking about joining?
Okay. The girl in Stillwater, for example, that works so diligently in Stillwater County during Yellowstone.
Jala?
I don't remember what her name is off the top of my head.
Tesla.
Not Tesla. Remember that lady? She would be in her car. She was in Stillwater.
Shala. Oh, Shala.
Okay. You know, there's a lot of issue, and even National brought it up to me. We should not be doing that. Okay.
Again, I want to know who said that in National.
So Dallas, maybe a point to take here is that Crisis Cleanup, you have to get some sort of login from them so that in a way that information is somewhat limited. But when you put it out in an email, that's like pee in the swimming pool, right? You're not getting it back. You have zero control over it. And I guess maybe the more important point, I think you did it with the best of intentions, but you did it without discussion with the rest of the board. And that's where I think, because honestly, I've had that same inclination, like, all right, forward the email, hope people engage on it. Hang on, please let me finish. Just a sec here.
Scott sent out that information first, though, right, John?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
From the Red Cross sent that information out first.
That was private. No, Scott sent that information out, but he did not send it out to the entire VOAD. He sent it to us.
Right.
Okay. You know, if you, so, but we need to be safeguardians of that information. Okay. And there's just, you know, what's going to happen. And I have to get back to this grant money too, because this is a huge can of worms. Yes, it has some potential good side, but it has a lot of potential bad side, because some of the things that can,
there's always those bad sides, Joe. There's always those bad sides.
you know, yes, but the bad sides could give us black eyes for years and affect our relationships with the state, the governor's office, and everything else. Because as soon as you start handing out money, people get pissed off if they don't get enough or they didn't get any. And then they're calling the governor's office, and then they're calling us saying, why did you bring this agency in here? What was your rationale? And they're not talking to you, they're talking to me.
But
Or they're talking to John.
you risk that in every disaster, and that has nothing to do with Catholic Services coming in and
But
helping.
you were not authorized to do that by me or John.
Well,
You
if I
took
was
it
supposed
upon
to do it,
yourself
why
to
didn't
do
you
that.
tell me that? You were on vacation. You said you were on vacation.
I was on
You were
vacation, but
gone.
I answer my phone.
Yeah, but
I'm constantly talking to people when I'm on
said there would
vacation.
be times that you couldn't. Now, the
Okay,
point,
but
my
then I
point in
did
this,
not-
my point in this is, why did you ambush me with this? Why not call me weeks ago and say, Dallas, I don't want you to do this, or Dallas, you shouldn't be doing this, or Dallas, this is wrong, or something, instead of this kind of a thing. That's what concerns me. I mean, the back talking that had to happen before this happened is very concerning, and I think
So-
we should treat each other like adults.
So Dallas, you have my commitment going forward. I'll address things with you directly.
Yeah.
I'm more accustomed to an AAR format, but if you prefer that immediate response, I'm happy to do that with you.
And I will.
The problem with an AAR, John, it's my understanding it's never to be used to call somebody to task or to point out somebody doing something wrong that you feel. It's never supposed to be used that way. It's supposed to be totally neutral. And
Dallas,
then
Dallas,
you come up
Dallas, this
with-
was
afterwards
this-
you come up with a solution.
Dallas, this meeting was not to call you out. This meeting was to address concerns that our agencies had and now National has with how this was handled.
Okay.
Okay. Now National will be sending me suggestions on how to handle this. They are meeting, they are going to put suggestions together. A national board member has agreed to come on to one of our board meetings and talk to us about the importance of government partnerships, about the importance of keeping open lines of communication, about the importance of creating local and regional VOADs to help in these especially in these rural areas where local participation is so key.
But on that point, Joe, and that's something we need to discuss. There's a lot of these things we need to discuss and get ironed out and get something written down, like Steve said. But if there's no agency locally that can help, no voluntary organization, what good does a COAD do over a Montana VOAD if there's no a local voluntary organization can help?
Okay, because one of the things you have to realize in a disaster, for example, at the same time Hardin happened, there was flooding around Billings. Okay, more homes were affected around Billings than were affected in Hardin. Okay.
So
People were still pumping. Now, and I can tell you locally, we never got a call about that because we didn't need to, because the local agencies responded, local things happened. We didn't need to get involved.
I talked to a lot of local voluntary organizations, and nobody said anything about that. In fact, their COAD there is gone. There is no COAD.
Okay, now let me finish. Okay, here's the point. Our agencies, usually every agency has a certain service limit. So we can add all the agencies we want, but they are going to have service limits to where they can automatically respond. Within a certain jurisdiction, agencies can automatically respond. They're going to be there. hands down. Once you get into these rural communities, we have to realize that many of our agencies, I hate to say this, but disaster is a business. Okay, there's only 10 homes affected. We want to help. We'll make cleanup kits available. We'll make flood buckets available if people want to drive 60 miles to our office to pick up a cleanup kit. But that's all we're going to do. Because it's not cost effective to go in and roll out everyone for that.
It's for us to know, for us as a board, and actually the whole BOAD to know the parameters, so that we know we could look at the state of Montana and say we have no one over here. What can we do? And that's why.
But we are going to run into that in most of these little rural communities in Montana that are far away from population centers.
Exactly.
Okay, we know this. That is why, I mean, some local co-eds may be the local grocery store, the United Church of Bob and the feed store, and that may be their local co-ed, and that's all it is. But then we can express, we may not be able to provide manpower, but we can share knowledge.
But that's what we do. Where are the parameters, Joe? Do we just not try to help those people, or do we try to find people in other places that aren't in our BOAD yet to help? I brought several organizations into our BOAD that weren't there before, and here's
the problem with going and getting agencies during a disaster. Okay, it's great that we're expanding our footprint. There is nothing wrong with expanding our footprint. There is nothing wrong with wanting to go out and try to find people. There is nothing wrong with that, and you have done a wonderful job doing that.
In fact, there's everything right with it, right? Wouldn't you say there's everything right with it?
Here's the problem, and this is one of the questions National asked me yesterday, and they are spot on. Number one, are they a 501c3? Okay. Are these groups actually a 501c3 to begin with?
They have to fill out an application. They don't have to be a 501c3.
Number two,
be a nonprofit.
Okay. Number two, are these agencies licensed to provide service in Montana? You can't just pull in and out.
They know that. Why should I tell them that?
Because there are agencies that will just come in across state lines without being registered in Montana.
What do you mean registered?
Okay, for example, like if you have to go through the 501c3 process in Montana. Do they have offices in Montana?
No, you don't have to go through that process.
Okay, Dallas, please let me finish. Do we know they can work in Montana? Do they have insurance?
But we don't make that determination. That's up to the voluntary organizations. They know.
And I understand it's up to the voluntary organizations, but they're coming in. We're pulling them in during an active disaster, working under our flag. If we pull in, and National is right. If we just pull in an agency we really don't know a lot about, and they come in and start doing work, and there's an issue, it gives the VOAD a black eye because we brought them in.
Well, they're all ones I contacted are members of National VOAD.
Okay, and that may be, but once again, the board did not know this was happening.
Well, you saw it happening. I was putting emails out and everything. All of a sudden, bang! We've got this ambush. Why in the hell? Where have you been? Why do you ambush me like this? Why did you do the back talking and everything? That is juvenile. That's juvenile. Let's get it out there and let's talk about it instead of ambushing somebody.
This was not intended to be an ambush, Dallas. This was to address this is to address concerns of our member agencies who felt like the word they actually used was they felt like they were browbeat into responding.
I don't know.
If agencies don't respond, we don't keep going after them. We have to respect the fact they can't respond.
Who went after them and after them? I sent out emails to everybody on the database. Is that what you mean?
Okay. Yes.
I mean, just to put something out there in front of everybody is not browbeating them. They can
So-
volunteer or not. I'm not saying, boy, you should be volunteering. You're something wrong with you if you don't. I said just the opposite. I understand every organization has parameters. And
So once
I
national,
honor that.
okay, so once national comes down with their recommendations, I'll present them to the board, and then we can go from there. Now, what we need to figure out as a board right now is if we're going to cease operations in Hardin or not, if we're going to allow that grant money to come in or not. I mean, my personal feeling is,
can't tell somebody that there's no grant money can come in. I don't know.
No,
what
we can-
Montana
no, we- no.
BOAD is, but
Dallas,
we don't do
Dallas,
that.
we can make the determination as a VOAD that we are not going to be involved with it. We should not have brought them in the first place without the board's knowledge. Because Dallas, do you understand how much work goes involved in handing out grant money? Do you understand the all of the different nuances that goes in there?
They said they wanted to do it, and that looks like they're going to do it, and we have no say about that. I looked for an organization that could help in Hardin, and I found several in Lavina.
But Dallas, what you're asking is one of our VOAD agencies to be the fiscal agent for Catholic Services.
No, they're going to work with Catholic Services. I don't know what that.
Okay, we should not, unless the board voted to do that, we should not be tasking our agencies to do that.
That's not a task. That's an ask. That's what we do.
Oh boy.
I asked them, and we've had a couple of good responses. What's wrong with that? Doesn't that fit into our bylaws and everything else?
So Dallas, do you think there's any validity to these concerns?
Well, the thing, the browbeaten thing, I can understand if you feel guilty because you can't help that you might feel browbeaten, but that's not like I browbeat anybody. So there's some
Dallas, to
validity,
clarify, this is a binary question.
Just like a trial. If somebody's going to make some accusations like that, the national BOAD is upset with us. I'd like to know who it was that is upset and what they've said. That's simple.
Dallas, to clarify this, it's a binary question. Do you feel like there's validity to these concerns?
There's some validity to some of the concerns, yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And let's be clear, this is not, it's a gray area, right? Not everything you did was wrong. Don't take it in that way.
No. And then we're not saying that. We know you had the best intention, but what we're trying to say is we have agencies who are threatening to leave VOAD because of how this was handled.
I don't believe that. I'd have to see it to believe it.
Oh boy.
Because if they're threatening to leave because of what happened, I'd like to discuss with them what happened so we can clarify that I'm not trying to force anybody.
Okay. And
I've got a whole bunch of letters saying, wow, this is why I'm in VOAD. Thank you for the work you've done.
But here's the other problem, Dallas, is like, for example, in Lavina, you just inserted yourself. People didn't know how to contact. They finally threw up their hands and like, we're done. And that gives us a black eye. When the county and mayor's office throws up their hands and they're done, that gives us a black eye. Even if we helped people, it was done the wrong way.
I'm still in contact with the undersheriff, and he's been indeed grateful for everything we've done there.
I know they are. But you were not authorized to become the point of contact for that. That is John or John or myself.
You were out of, you told me, I've got the emails from you saying you're going to be gone. You're not going to be in contact, especially these times because you're going to be at camp or something. And that's why.
But I did not authorize you to make contact. I was.
You don't have to authorize me. If you're out of contact, then the rest of us fall into place.
Okay, no, Dallas. The bylaws are specific that those tasks need to be discerned by the president or the vice president.
What task?
Okay. When I'm telling you, National pulled up our bylaws yesterday. They read them and they said his position in the bylaws does not give him the authority to be doing this.
Well, I read the bylaws too, and I don't see it exactly that way. And maybe that's something we should do, is discuss the bylaws, see if there need to be changes, and all this stuff. I think I haven't had a chance to read what Steve said, but if we had those written procedures down that might have helped with this. But when you're gone, and you know, at any point in the work I was doing, any of you guys, any of the board could have stepped in and helped, or joined in, or said, no, you can't do this, or whatever. But I didn't hear from anybody until now in this ambush.
So what would have changed? I guess I'm curious why you think this is an ambush and that wouldn't have been. What would you have been more open to the discussion?
Dallas, you didn't do any of this during Yellowstone, and during Yellowstone, I was gone multiple weeks.
We had crisis cleanup during Yellowstone. What was your question, John?
I guess I'm trying to understand why you thought that would be, why this is an ambush and that wouldn't be. What would be the difference there? I don't fully understand it.
Well, my emails have been flying back and forth for a month and a half. Nobody, other than Steve saying, not sure we should send those out to the whole group. Nobody ever said, hey, no, you're not supposed to be doing this, quit doing this, or we need to meet as a board or something. But it was clearly you and Joe, and I don't know if Steve was involved, got your heads together and decided you're going to ambush with an AAR. And instead of calling me and saying, I'm concerned that you're doing this or that, and maybe we should do this or that, I think what we're dealing here with is a power struggle.
No, Dallas.
I think Lavina and Hardin are better off because of the work I did. We did get
Dallas,
some help.
This is not a power struggle. But when I have someone on the phone telling me that you made the specific comment to them that you are making it your personal responsibility to help every person on that list in Hardin.
Well, whoever said that to you lied. Wouldn't it be right then for you to call me and say, this was said to me by such and such on the phone, so I know who said it, and would you please not do that? Wouldn't that be the right thing to do if somebody called me and said, that damn Joe needs to go, he is terrible, he's doing this and that, I would call Joe.
Yeah. You know, and Dallas, I don't want you to think of this isn't supposed to be a power struggle or anything else. This is about our image going forward. And the bottom line is, yes, you were sending out emails, you had the best intentions in the world. Nobody faults anybody for best intentions. We all want to help. But what should have happened in Hardin was we put the ask out. If our agencies couldn't respond, then unfortunately we have to take the emotion out of it. And disasters are very emotional. And we have to say, unfortunately, there's nothing Montana VOAD can do. Well, and then we go back after the fact and say, okay, we would have loved to help in Hardin. We couldn't because we didn't have any agencies who were capable of responding. These are why they couldn't respond. And now let's figure out how to close the gaps. That's what should have happened in Hardin.
For the record, Joe, I totally disagree with your last statement. That is not written down. That's a feeling in your head, and I disagree completely. I think if Montana VOAD is going to be a important disaster organization, we have to help the little communities as much as we can.
I understand, and that is why
that includes getting a hold of people that aren't in our VOAD and trying to get organizations to come in and help that might not.
And that is where we pull them in after the fact and say, hey, we could not help.
Well, I can tell you right now that for some reason, Hardin didn't get any help. Lavina did get some help and good help, but Hardin didn't. And I have a feeling it's because of the race that's there and because of the tribe and stuff.
Oh, boy.
But we've got a situation where we did bring in help. We had one group from Minnesota that helps people that was going to come in, and they would have come in if they had more timely notice. There isn't anything wrong with reaching out. I don't know where you're getting this, though. We're not supposed to reach out. I think
no, you're right, Dallas. There is nothing wrong with reaching out, but we have to be careful talking to homeowners. possibly running the risk of setting false expectations, going out and bringing people in during a disaster. Sometimes we don't, when we don't have proper time to vet them, when we don't know anything about these
We don't
agencies.
vet. If they're part of the National VOAD, they can be part of Montana VOAD.
Well, this is true, and you're right, and I understand what you're saying, but
we don't vet anybody actually, other than the application. We need to make sure our applications are filled out.
But Dallas, you are correct. We should be helping these little communities. We should be doing it, and that is why the push for the local and regional VOADs. Well, that is why we need to have a local presence.
I might disagree with that push now after working with this. Before I might have agreed with it, but I don't. And I think it's a discussion we need to have. What good is a COAD if you don't have voluntary organizations there? I think COADs are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm president of one of them. But I think that, and I said this in email, I think that what Montana VOAD needs to do, besides forming COADs where necessary, we need to build Montana VOAD so we can cover the whole state. We've got people that will come in, whether it's next to a city or not, and cover that whole state so that when there's a little disaster like these, we can help them. The voluntary.
I completely understand. I completely understand the want and need to help everyone, and I get that. Unfortunately, in disaster, you cannot help everyone all the time. You just can't do it.
But you try. But you try.
You try the best you can. But for example, in this
people in Hardin.
And I feel bad for the people in Hardin. And I wish more of our agencies would have been able to respond. But if there is nothing we could do, and our agencies weren't able to respond, then they're not able to respond.
Well, I don't know who you're preaching to there, but I agree completely. And you won't see anything out there that I'm asking people to respond now, other than the people I contacted before. We're not going to give those poor people help. And I've never seen anybody that needed help more than those people there.
So I'd like to address one comment you made. Speculating on people's reasons for not responding is really dangerous territory. And speculating that it was a racist decision is really, really bad.
I think
don't question people's motives, and definitely don't accuse them of racism.
Just looking at the whole thing, why did we not get help into Hardin?
Dallas, I can think of 100 disasters we haven't helped on as Team Rubicon. Don't speculate that it was a racist decision. That's kind of a bullshit attitude to have.
Well, I said that. What's the problem? I didn't say that Team Rubicon didn't go in because of racism, because they didn't.
You specifically just a few minutes ago said, I think it has to do with the race-based demographics there.
I really do. I didn't say
so don't speculate. That's fine if you think that, but don't speculate. I'm sorry to get irritated, but that's wrong.
I didn't say Salvation Army. I said the reason we're not getting help in there, I think, is partly because it's a tribe. You have to work with a tribe, and it's because of who they are, their names.
No. I think the reason why we're not getting help in there, Dallas, is because it's only a 16-home disaster. Most agencies like the Salvation Army, Team Rubicon, and other agencies, we want to help everyone, and we try our best. But a lot of times, we're more geared to a larger scale disaster than a smaller scale disaster. If it's in our backyard, of course we're going to help. If it's in our service areas, we're going to be there all the time, whether it's one home or 200 homes. But if we have to leave our service area, then we have to decide how much help can we really give.
Every agency has to decide that. But
exactly,
if there's nobody to help, it doesn't mean VOAD just sits back on its heels. I don't see anything written like that.
Okay, Dallas, it just really feels like you have made this your personal crusade.
What?
These folks in Hardin. you know, and
I
you're
worked
not
on
looking at it.
Lavina. I worked on Lavina too.
I realize that, Dallas. But you know what's interesting to me is you worked on Lavina and Hardin, but you wanted to throw up the red flag and tell VOAD we shouldn't respond to Hysham because the township caused the problem. You know,
Well, but that's a different deal, Joe. It was
no, it's not.
Yeah, it was a company. It was a company that caused the problem.
Dallas, it does. See, that's where the problem lies. It doesn't matter if it's a government fault or if a hurricane goes through. There were 200 people without.
It wasn't government fault. It's a company that sells water. And what I pointed out to you, and we can go back on all the records, I pointed out to you that when you got somebody that's selling water to people, making money, and their system goes down, that's different than if it's a disaster. That, in other words, even the Red Cross pushed it back on that. You guys have the responsibility to make sure those people have water. And I think everybody would agree with that thinks it true.
But let me ask you a question. Do you think voluntary agencies pushed back when it came time to help with the water crisis in Flint, Michigan? No, they assisted first. They didn't worry about if the stuff that happened in Flint was government caused. They went in and they did what they had to do to get people water and other things.
Well,
okay,
that's up to the voluntary organizations, though.
Right.
We did the right thing. We put it out there for the voluntary organizations so they could look at their own parameters. I know if when I was in Red Cross, they would have pushed back. They would have said, "Wait a minute, you guys have the responsibility, the fiduciary responsibility." So that's a whole different ball game. But anyway, that really doesn't have nothing to do with this.
But Dallas, that racist claim, that is absolutely horrible. And the problem,
I'm afraid it is.
You know, and like I said, the problem John and I have is we are the ones that are going to get phone calls from government agencies, state agencies, and if we don't know what we're talking about, that gives the entire VOAD a black eye.
Okay.
When we
wait, now I didn't hide anything, Joe.
No, I'm not saying you did.
Yeah,
but
you're trying to say that. It was all out in the open. How come this ambush? Why didn't you call me 2 days after I sent the first email saying, "No, you can't do that. I don't want you to"?
Dallas, any negotiations to bring in other agencies should have either John or I involved, so we know what's going on and
is that written down somewhere?
Dallas, I think that's sort of part of being a board, right? Is you don't act on your own decision. You discuss it with the board.
Joe,
if you look at the bylaws, I am the president and CEO of VOAD. I don't care if you are, and John is my second, and I don't care if you're in a privately run company, if you're in a nonprofit agency, if you're in a voluntary organization like this. When the CEO and president of an agency does not have intimate details on especially things like new agencies coming in, conversations about grant monies coming in, and they don't know what's going on, that gives everyone a black eye. That gives everyone a black eye.
It isn't like I hid anything. It was all out there. Why didn't you say something?
No, you didn't hide anything. But there were no communications saying, I'm thinking about contacting this agency. As a board, as a group, we need to be working together on that. One person should not just be pulling in all these agencies on their own without the rest of the board's involvement.
Okay.
You know, especially when you're trying to bring money in.
Why didn't you say that before?
Oh my gosh.
Why now?
Oh boy.
That's my question.
Oh boy.
I mean, I'm not the only one at fault here. That's what I'm trying to say. You waited for this ambush to bring this up. Why didn't you bring it up before and we would avoid the ambush? Just call me and say, Dallas, I don't want you to make any more calls. I don't want you to bring any more money. I don't want you to bring any more agencies into Montana VOAD. I don't want to do these things. Let's just keep it static and not make it grow. And I would have followed that. But it isn't like I tried to hide it from you.
Dallas, I think the point becomes oftentimes the stuff shows up in an email that we see it at the same time as the entire membership sees it. And that's not the way a board should work. Does that land with you?
So why didn't you mention this before?
So again, I'm going to ask you just a direct question, a
be-
binary question.
Mm.
We see these emails at the same time as the general membership, but we should be discussing these things as a board.
So
Does that land?
every little thing.
I would say bringing agencies in from out of Montana is not a little thing. It's actually a big thing.
What do you mean?
And putting our name on potential grant money is a big thing. Don't dismiss these as small events.
Who put our name on potential grant money?
It doesn't. It is when you send that out from the VOAD email, it becomes an implied thing that we're part of that grant making process. And I know that's not the absolute truth of it. I know technically that's not true, but again, people hear what they want to hear. And when that grant falls through, or let me rephrase that, if that grant falls through, it's going to become a VOAD issue.
I don't know.
And that email has the Montana VOAD logo on it, which inherently associates it with us, whether we want to be associated with it or not.
I don't know where you get grant money, but all my emails have had my logo. If you didn't want me to do that, why didn't you mention a month and a half ago? Why now? That's my concern. Is that we're trying to gang up on him here with all this crap that may be true and may not be true, instead of just communicating with him and working with him as a go. That's my concern as a board.
But I think my feeling is if Catholic Social Services comes in with this money, then they will have to find a partner on their own away from the VOAD. So we are not associated with this in any way, shape, or form, or don't give the perception of being associated with this in any way, shape, or form. Because if we give the perception we are associated with this, then we are going to get blamed if there are major issues.
So if we're in a bigger disaster and there's money coming in, we can't use the 4 C's to coordinate who's going to work with that and who can.
No. And we did that in Yellowstone. What's the difference here? Okay. Because
Dallas says you did it on your own. And remember, one of those 4 C's is collaboration. And you're not being very collaborative about this.
I remember all these emails went out. I've been contacting, and I've said it.
None of us knew you were trying to pull money in. None of us knew you were trying to pull money in until that email yesterday.
Money is part of disaster response. If an agency, the Catholic Charities is a small agency, they don't have volunteers, so they have this money.
Okay, so let me explain to you a little bit how usually this long-term recovery and grant money works. Okay. First of all, like in Yellowstone, Gallatin County had all those millions of dollars. They worked with Gallatin and Park County. Red Lodge had their pool of money. They worked with their county and like Fromberg and stuff like that. Stillwater, they did their own thing. They chose not to have a lot of response. They chose not to use a lot of volunteers. That was the county's call, and we were all talking about this. We were all in communication and collaboration. The Greater Gallatin Community Foundation and the United Way of Gallatin County formulated a plan how to distribute this money on their own. And then they talked to all of us. This is how money distribution is going to work. This is how this is going to work. They formed those partnerships on their own and then collaborated with the rest of us on how it was going to work. Okay. We didn't pull in that money. They pulled in that money on their own, figured out their process, and then collaborated with us. We didn't go out and search for those grants. The other thing about grants
I didn't search for any grants, I guess. I hope you know that.
Okay. The other thing that we have to think about is the fact that in a larger scale disaster, we could have Catholic Charities on board, and they're a great partner to have because they do deal in long-term recovery. But the ultimate decision in a large-scale disaster is not up to the VOAD on who does long-term recovery. The state will put out an RFP and they will award the contract to a nonprofit to manage that money. In the case of Yellowstone, they picked a company that's outside of Montana to handle all the disaster case management and long-term recovery. It's not even a Montana nonprofit that they picked.
But you can't have a Montana nonprofit do long-term recovery planning.
You can have Montana and what that out-of-state company will then do is they will come in and work with local companies. And they will make their contacts. They will work with like Red Lodge Community Foundation. They'll work with the United Way of Gallatin County. They will work with local groups to distribute that money. Okay.
But that's a different situation. I mean, I know of communities, not so much in Montana, but that have formed their own long-term recovery made up of
and that's the thing, and that's why we.
This is not that. It's a voluntary organization that wants to help, and
I understand that. I understand that, but if they want to help, that's all well and good. But VOAD should, we have to be careful if our name stamp is on that, because if people see that umbrella, they're going to assume we are involved with it in some way, shape, or form.
Well,
and there is potential good in it, but there is such a potential for downside with it that it, like the person from National told me yesterday, once you get these black eyes, they take years to recover from. It takes you a black eye because of things.
How about the good eyes?
Okay, it's one that people are being helped. But if the state and the governor's office starts getting a lot of phone calls and something goes south with this and there's a lot of people complaining, do you think they're going to want to come back to us to assist with disasters in the future? Or do you think they're going to want to partner with us? We don't need them.
I don't know why they wouldn't if we got help into some of the families. It puzzles me why we would be concerned about that.
We're concerned about it because the potential for downside and more people to be pissed off than get help is a major concern.
It's going to be Catholic Charities, and if any other.
And I understand that, but our umbrella is on it.
I don't understand your concern. I'm not. Catholic Charities contacted me after I contacted them and let them know about Hardin.
But once again, you did all this on your own without the board's knowledge.
You knew I was doing it. I said
we did not know you were contacting agencies looking for money. We did not.
I didn't contact anybody looking for money. Catholic Charities said they can't help with volunteers, but they've got some money.
So then at that point in time, what should have happened was a board meeting was called so we could have all talked to Catholic Charities and found out how this works.
Why?
Because we are a board, and as a board, we should make this decision and find out about it together.
Every little decision we have to make for a board. If it's working with a voluntary organization, they say they've got the money to help in Hardin, and they want to know who could work with them on that. And we tell them we're supposed to meet with the board and ask them what they've got some money and they want another voluntary organization. Who should we recommend? Is that are we going to go that fine tune?
Dallas, when money is involved, when something as serious as
I'm not
money
getting any money, and neither is Montana VOAD. This is a voluntary organization that has their own setup, their own government. I'm not going to tell them what to do. They ask my help in finding somebody.
Right. But in us finding someone, that connects it to VOAD.
Oh, baloney! If we were meeting in a Zoom meeting on a disaster, let's say Yellowstone, and Catholic Charities came in and said, "We've got $10,000 we want to give to somebody. Is there an organization that could help us out with that?" And we suggested, well, why don't we talk to such and such organization? Is that going to put us in the middle of that?
It can. We have to be careful.
Well, sure.
We need to be careful.
We can be in the middle of a lot of things and disasters, but it's them doing it, and we're just tossing it to another voluntary organization that will help them. I don't understand the concern there.
But because Dallas,
power thing.
This is not a power thing. This is not a minor thing. You're acting like this is a minor thing. This is not a power trip on me or John or anybody else.
Well, why didn't we discuss this before when I was doing it? You saw I was doing it.
Dallas, honestly, I thought when we put the ask out for Hardin and nobody responded, that would be it, and we weren't going to respond. That's how it's always been in the past, the last 2 years.
That's not the way it should be, though. A good Montana ByLaws would do all they could to get help into that community.
But now you're taking it upon yourself to do this without, you're doing it all on your own without the rest of us.
I've done it by email for a month and a half, and you've not said a word until today. That's the concerning part of this. Why didn't you say something? Oh, we don't want to help Hardin anymore. We're done. Everybody's wiped their hands. We're done.
Because normally, once we put the ask out, if nobody responds, normally the way it works is we put an ask out. We work with the agencies that respond. The other agencies that don't respond, we're like, okay, we understand you can't respond. If nobody responds, then unfortunately, we're probably not able to help at that point in time.
Yeah,
and then we go back and close the gaps after the fact.
I think that's a flaw in our procedures, and I think to be a good organization, we need to do what we can. We've only got a handful of voluntary organizations in our group. We need to do what we can to reach out to others, especially, for example, I imagine you're upset because I reached out to the veterans. We got help into that veteran family.
Why would I be upset that you reached out to veterans? I'm a veteran.
I know, but we didn't have any help into that family, and I reached out to the veterans, a whole bunch of veterans throughout the state. It all came together where a beautiful situation where they came in and helped the family. I was doing all that out in the open. You could have said something then if we don't want the veterans or whatever. I think that with the flaw in our procedure
nobody's complaining about getting the family the help. Okay. This all stemmed and started from complaints from our agencies that they felt like they were being pressured into responding.
Well, I'd like to talk to and have them show me where I pressured anybody, because I didn't. That's a lie. They may have felt guilty and felt pressure, but I didn't pressure anybody. I understood. And I said in my email, the Salvation Army has some parameters. Team Rubicon has parameters they have to live by. Crisis Cleanup have parameters, so they can't be in here to help. But I didn't stop there. I reached out to others and got other help in. We didn't have any veterans on our group at all. Now we do.
And there's nothing wrong with adding groups. Nobody is faulting you for adding groups. But when we start adding agencies, when we start actively recruiting people to come in, especially from out of state, even if they are national partners, the board should be involved. That is not a minor thing.
The board
That's a major thing.
The board has to be involved when they become members. You're saying that I shouldn't reach out to other organizations nationwide and try to get them involved with the Montana ByLaws?
Okay,
so Dallas, that's not what we're saying. But what you need to differentiate between blue sky relationship building and gray skies. During gray skies, you're inviting people in that was not a board discussion at all. And I guess what I'm asking right now is, do we have your commitment to discuss these things with the board, or is it going to continue to be acting on your own recognizance without any sort of consultation with us?
I guess I would ask, do I have your commitment that you won't talk behind my back anymore? And that you
about 45 minutes ago, I gave you that commitment directly. I said that very specifically. Okay. So we've gone around that question more than once. We've brought that up. We're in a circular equation. And frankly, I'm getting a little frustrated with it.
What is it that you want me to commit to?
Very clearly, what I just said is commit to discussing these issues with the board before we send them out to the entire membership.
Discussing what issues specifically?
I would say at this point, any issue. Now, I don't care what color paper we use or what color font you use in your email, so don't make it ridiculous. But these are things that are big deals, and potentially they can be really negative big deals. So that has to be a board discussion before we communicate these things.
Well, okay, so you want me to discuss with the board everything I'm going to do? Do you guarantee you'll do that, and Joe will do that?
Yes, and I normally do. I will put out an email, dear board, this is what's going on. Just putting it on your radar. Or Dallas, please send this out to the membership. You know, I let you know, hey, the Emergency Disaster Forum is coming up. I've been asked to be a presenter. I'm doing a presentation in front of all the DESs in the state. John and I have split the duties, and over the last 2 years, John and I have worked really hard on relationship building with our partners. John attends the Midwest cohort meetings. He works really heavily with our regional VOADs and other voluntary groups. And when I talked to National yesterday, nothing but compliments about the work John has been doing with those regional groups and in the Midwest cohort. And I'm so glad John has been doing that. On my side, I have been relationship building with the state and federal partners and making sure that we keep open lines of communication. I have worked very, very hard with the state so we can get relationships with individual counties that want us to come in so we don't have an incident like we had with Flathead last year, where when Flathead County basically gave us the middle finger and said, we don't want any outside agencies to help with our flooding. We don't want any flood kits. We want our residents to be self-sufficient. And if you want to help the Flathead, donate to a local Flathead County charity. Okay. I've been working on relationship building with these county DESs, with these local people, going to these statewide functions. And if we give the perception that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and the state sees that, or our other VOAD partners see it, that can have long-term ripple effects, not just for us, but for other regional VOADs and other places. So we have to be careful. The disaster community is very small. Everybody interacts with each other. Everybody talks. You know, we have to be careful. We're not I understand completely the need to want to act and respond now. I understand completely to eliminate government red tape and go in and help people, and we don't need the government. And that is true. We don't need the government. But if we just randomly, when you go into a county, you should do one of three things is going to happen. If I contact a county DES and say, hey, we have some requests for unmet needs, they're going to say, and we would like to come in and start operations in your county. They will tell me, go ahead, glad to have you. Can I join your meetings? Can I collaborate with you? How can I be of assistance? Please help our residents. That's the best case scenario. The next case scenario is, okay, come on in. We're not going to really interact with you too much. Do your thing. That's fine. That's okay too. And the last scenario is, no, we don't want any outside help at all. And then if we still go in when they say that, then we could be stepping on toes. But the point is we need to be communicating with people, because if we're not communicating with the government officials, if we're not communicating with local authorities, then what happens is they may have something in the works we don't know about, and we have the best intentions in the world, and then we accidentally go in there and step on toes. And now we have a bad relationship and a black eye. Even though we had the best intentions in the world, we stepped on toes and didn't even know about it. You know, providing data back to the state, that is not working for the government. Providing data back to the state is crucial for assistance monies. It's crucial for them writing public assistance declarations. While there is no individual money for homeowners, are based off of things like volunteer hours. The state's match for these public assistance dollars, part of the things they use for the match is volunteer hours. Where do they get that data for volunteer hours? From the volunteer agencies. If we're not helping collect that data, we are cutting the state out of much needed money, and assistance. That's not working for the government. That's being good partners and helping each other out and sharing data back and forth. You know, those are the type of things we need to do. And when one person is going off and just doing things on their own, and we don't know what's going on, and the rest of the board doesn't know what's going on, and all of a sudden we have all these agencies coming in, we're hearing about grant money, that people are wanting to bring grant money in or other dollars, and we don't know what's going on, and now we're getting questioned. That doesn't, it's great that we're helping people, but it's bad that the people who should be in the know aren't in the know and we can't answer. You know, this isn't about power struggles.
So, well, I debate that, but you know, all the people we got help in because of that extra work, and I didn't see any of you guys jumping in and helping, making contact and stuff, but
that's because we don't Dallas, we don't contact the homeowners. I work with the DESs, I work with the counties or a local pastor or a local contact. I'm not making direct contact with homeowners, because if I do that, I may give a false hope or misrepresent VOAD, and they will think VOAD is coming in to give help when we're not able to come in and give help.
Well,
okay,
you risk that with crisis cleanup, same risk, but
but here's the difference. Here's the difference with crisis cleanup. We do not contact them. The homeowner calls a 1-800 number and puts a name in a database. We are not talking to them. We are not promising services. They are putting their name in there. Okay. There's a big difference. The homeowner is initiating the contact. We are not initiating the contact. Well, that's a big difference.
In some situations, other situations, people make contact with the homeowners and then enter the information into the computer. I don't know that it makes any difference who contacts the homeowners. What does make a difference, it shouldn't make any promises. The Red Cross did originally. They evidently contacted those people and did a disaster assessment, and that's great.
Dallas, the problem with contacting the homeowners, like John said, is they're going to hear what they want to hear.
Always.
So even if you're not making promises, they're going to hear VOAD, and they'll hear possible assistance as I'm getting help. Okay. Yeah, we have to be very careful about how we do some of these things.
Well, I agree with that.
You know,
that's why I was. I didn't make any promises, and I had to call a couple people back because they indicated that Montana BOAD would help, and I had to make sure they understood that we don't help people in a disaster. But you're always going to have that. You're going to have that misunderstanding, and I also always asked the people if they wanted their information released to voluntary organizations so they could look at it, and I had a couple of hesitations, but then they agreed. So you know, it's either that, Joe. We're an organization that just says, oh, these few volunteer organizations we have said no, so we're just going to walk away. I didn't walk away. I reached out to see if there's some other voluntary organizations that are already vetted, are already members of National BOAD, to see if they could help. And that's all I did. And that's part of my
job. But no, Dallas, unless the president or vice president gives you that authority, you do not have that authority. Even National looked at our bylaws and said that.
Yeah, but my authority is to get new members, etc. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. That's part of being on the board, but you weren't authorized to contact homeowners. You weren't authorized to call and pull in other agencies. That needs to come from the board, and it's very specific in the bylaws that those duties need to be given out by the president or vice president.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's a power thing, but you weren't available.
This is not this.
You weren't available.
I was available.
I've got emails. I've got the email saying you wouldn't be. You wouldn't even be able to answer your phone during certain times. If you didn't want me to do it, you should have said a month and a half ago. That's what ticks me off about this, is you're treating me like some kind of a jerk with an ambush instead of just communicating with me while we're going.
Dallas, the whole
John,
problem
on
is,
your statement, you've included everything. Everything I need to do, I clear through the board. I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's what this is all about. You guys don't do it. Why would I do it? If you guys want me to notify you if I'm going to contact organizations, I'll notify you. And my notice right now is any voluntary organizations active in disasters as part of the National ByLaws, I will be contacting to see if they want to join with Montana ByLaws. But
so you're
So
not going to
effectively-
stop, you're not going to discuss these things with the board. You're going to
Pardon?
act on your own.
what was that again?
So basically what you just told me and John is you're going to act on your own. You are not going to discuss these things with the board.
What things?
You're
What
just
things?
going to go
What things? What things?
recruiting agencies, trying to bring people in,
That's my
this
job.
whole money
That's the
situation.
bylaws. That's my job.
No.
Yeah, but not the money now. If you want me to not try to get help into these communities, especially in the summer when you're not available, then they just don't get the help.
Dallas, just because
I would hope
Dal-
you would be in a position to say, Dallas, would you see what help we could get from other voluntary organizations since we don't have any help? I would hope that that's what you do as a Montana ByLaws to fulfill our responsibility as a ByLaws. But if
Dallas-
you're not going to do that, you should have said that earlier. Keep your mouth shut. Don't do anything. We don't want this other help. Just don't do it. And I wouldn't do it. But here we are.
Dallas, the problem is you didn't get any. The perception that is out there is you talk to these homeowners. This is the perception. You talk to these I'm not saying it's fact. I'm just communicating perception. You talk to these homeowners about VOAD help.
I don't
and
like
ask,
I don't like
and ask
because that's
and
what they
ask-
use. That's what they use
ask-
against Christ to crucify him was perception. But
and ask went out. None of our agencies responded. So then you had already talked to these homeowners. So then you continued to try to find other avenues as opposed to just, you didn't work with the board on any of this.
well,
Okay. And the problem is we have pissed off
I did.
agencies.
You guys didn't do anything about it at the time. You just ambushed me.
Dallas,
I've been
you are
working for a
working.
month and a half. A month and a half I've been doing this, Joe. And nobody said anything other than Steve mentioning we didn't think we should send that out, and I responded to that.
Dallas,
So let's get an agreement here that if I do something that you don't want me to do, that you'll tell me right away instead of ambushing me.
Dallas, we would prefer that anything you're doing, like John said, we're clearing
Anything.
through the board right now.
Anything?
Okay. We shouldn't be pulling in agencies unless the board is discussing it. We
That's
shouldn't.
part of my job.
Okay.
New members.
Dallas,
Yeah,
can I get a couple clarifications from you? What do you think is appropriate decision making for the secretary, and what is not appropriate decision making?
Well, in the absence of the leadership, then anything's appropriate. If people are out of contact and et cetera, then I think that's appropriate. And it's it's the board that runs Montana ByLaws. It isn't the leadership that runs it. But again, if I do something that you think I shouldn't do, tell me. And you said you will. I appreciate that. Now I would like to get the same thing from Joe. But I'm not going to contact you, the board, every time I do something, or that's all I do.
Dallas, I will contact you if I feel like you're acting out of line. But my issue that I have right now is I have to apologize to several agencies who feel slighted.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
Okay. The other thing.
Can you also accept the thanks that we got from other agencies?
That is fine, and nobody is.
Why isn't there any any similar concern about the help we got into those families that wouldn't have got there if I hadn't have made the contacts? Why isn't there some wonderful job? This is important that you did that. It's important that they got
Dallas,
why
no,
isn't
Dallas,
that there?
everybody, Dallas, it's wonderful people got help. It's the way that it got done is the problem.
So,
We're happy that people got help, but it was there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. You can have a positive outcome and do it the right way or the wrong way, and this was handled the wrong way. And all we're doing is trying to have a course correction.
what was the wrong way again?
Okay, so I am going to be waiting on the recommendations from National VOAD, and they are going to be providing a National VOAD board members to come and talk to us as a board on different topics, especially the creation of local and regional VOADs and the importance of it. And we will just continue to move forward from there. But as far as as far as these monies and stuff, I really do not think VOAD's name should be associated with it at all, because there's too much potential for a major black eye with this right now, because it wasn't handled right to begin with. The board was not notified. We had no input on this.
That's baloney. I've notified you. I was contacting all kinds of organizations. You know
that.
that.
Yeah, we didn't know. Boy, okay. John, do you have anything else?
No, I think I'm set. I guess, Dallas, I would ask you to just, the next time you make a decision, let's really discuss it as a board.
Exactly.
Really, is that clear to you?
Yeah. Would you guys discuss your decisions with the board too?
Yeah. Dallas, do you understand the severity of this? National is thinking we have a rogue board member.
I don't care what National says, but I would like to talk to whoever said that.
That is the problem, Dallas, is we have to care what National says.
Well, why?
Because
they're not over us.
They are not over us. We do operate independently.
But I would like to know who said that again. And you said you would send that to me.
But Dallas, here's the problem. Here's the inherent problem. If we get a reputation of just going out and doing our own thing, okay, and not caring about what National says, about not caring what the state thinks, about not caring what anybody else thinks, and we're just going to go out and do our own thing, we make it rough for other VOADs across the country. We make it rough for National.
Because we brought in extra help?
No, because we didn't follow proper procedure.
And we got to know what those procedures are. That's what we need to do. What Steve suggested and have it written down. There isn't anything written down.
Yeah. Okay. So, John, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'm set. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Dallas.
Bye. Thank you.